Okay, picture this. What if I told you that a super common, everyday hobby could actually act as a hidden superpower? We're talking about a widely practiced activity that fundamentally and literally alters human brain structure. I mean, boosting everything from memory to overall intelligence. It begs the question, can a simple extracurricular activity really rewire a child's brain? Well, we're about to find out. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into this totally fascinating intersection of neuroscience, education, and technology. We're going to decode exactly how music impacts cognitive development and how the actual way we teach it is rapidly, almost drastically, evolving. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the music advantage. Then, we'll look at the traditional classroom, followed by the budget crisis that's currently threatening it. After that, we'll explore the digital alternative. And finally, we'll wrap things up with the hybrid future. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the music advantage. So before we even talk about how to teach music, we really have to look at the sheer impact it has. We're grounding our deep dive today in a really eye-opening September 2024 paper by researcher Gong Sini. And, this data proves we aren't just talking about kids making nice sounds in a band room. No, we're talking about serious, measurable neurological upgrades. The actual breadth of that upgrade is honestly astounding. We aren't just looking at musical skill here. Kids with music education actually show a higher mean, full-scale IQ than non-learning groups. Their verbal and mathematical competence gets a real boost. They show much better verbal memory retrieval, which basically means they can pull information from their memory banks way faster. Plus, they've got increased selective attention. That's the ability to, say, laser focus on a teacher in a noisy, chaotic room while completely tuning out all the distractions. Now, you might be wondering, how long does all of this take? Get this, 15 months. That is literally it. In just over a year, neuroimaging shows physical structural enhancements in the auditoric, motoric, and executive areas of a child's brain. It's just an incredibly fast and wildly impressive neurological transformation. And this perfectly illustrates exactly why music boosts language skills. Have you heard of the opera hypothesis? It basically suggests that music and speech actually share overlapping pathways in the brain. Because both music and language rely heavily on analyzing complex sounds and sequences, practicing an instrument is essentially a high-intensity workout for a child's speech centers. This is exactly why kids with music training often show better reading skills, a sharper vocabulary, and really strong phonological awareness. It even helps bridge the educational gap for kids from low-income families by supercharging these foundational oral and concentration skills. Let's move on to section 2, the traditional classroom. Okay, so the cognitive benefits are totally undeniable, right? But how have we historically delivered them? Through the traditional classroom. Now, beyond the screeching of 30 plastic recorders, we've all been there, you get personalized learning and immediate feedback from a trained teacher who really serves as a motivational role model. Crucially, physically interacting with real, tangible instruments develops fine motor skills and a spatial temporal perspective that you just can't get any other way. Plus, being in a room with other people to play music builds incredibly vital social cooperation. It teaches leadership, negotiation, and through public performances, it even helps students learn to manage stress and anxiety. Those are real-world skills directly applicable to things like future job interviews. Which brings us to section 3, the budget crisis. Sadly, this perfect traditional system is under a massive threat. 17%. According to a 2017 poll by the National Association of Music Merchants, 17% of American schools had to completely eliminate music from their curriculum due to budget shortages. And honestly, on top of that lack of funding, many regions are facing completely inadequate teacher populations, which creates these massive barriers to accessibility. The absolute crucial point here is captured perfectly in this quote from the source material. Music programs are among the first to be cut down in schools when facing any financial problems because it is often considered an extracurricular activity. Think about the tragic irony of that for a second. We literally just established that music education physically reshapes the brain, raises full-scale IQ, and improves memory and language. Yet the very second money gets tight, it's instantly dismissed as just a fun, disposable extra. That leads us into section 4, the digital alternative. So with traditional classrooms facing these immense financial and geographical roadblocks, technology has, unsurprisingly, stepped in. Digital platforms, smartphone apps, online courses, they completely bypass those barriers. A student can literally learn at their own pace, anywhere in the world. What's more, modern digital tools often integrate artificial intelligence to provide instant, incredibly personalized feedback on rhythm and pitch. Furthermore, software like GarageBand completely democratizes composition. It allows kids to create and produce their own music without needing to shell out for expensive recording equipment or real instruments, which heavily fosters critical thinking and inventiveness. But when we compare the two directly side by side, the trade-offs become super obvious. On one hand, the traditional classroom gives us tangible instruments and deep physical social bonds, but let's face it, it's rigid and it's expensive. On the other hand, the digital platform is highly accessible, offers that great AI feedback, and totally democratizes the process, but it completely lacks physical touch and face-to-face human interaction. And that lack of physical interaction leads us straight to another major concern with the purely digital route. 4 hours and 44 minutes. According to data cited in the study from 2019, that is the average daily screen time for children aged 8 to 12. So, pushing music education entirely onto screens raises some very real issues about prolonged digital exposure and whether kids are actually getting enough balanced physical interaction for healthy overall development. Which brings us to a really core limitation. Screens simply cannot mimic the haptic feedback of playing a real instrument. When you press a real piano key or pluck a physical violin string, the resistance and the vibration teach your hands fine motor skills and expressiveness in a way a flat iPad screen honestly never will. Digital alone is inherently flawed, specifically because it lacks that refined tactile training. All right, let's wrap this up with Section 5, the hybrid future. If the traditional way is too rigid and the digital way is too detached, where do we actually go from here? Well, the research points heavily to a hybrid model as the ultimate solution, seamlessly synthesizing the absolute best of both worlds. Here's how it flows. Step 1. Students utilize digital platforms at home for flexible, AI-guided practice so they can learn at their own pace without tying up valuable classroom resources. Step 2. They attend in-person instruction to get that crucial human touch, the haptic feedback of real instruments, and the fine motor skill development. And Step 3, they engage in group rehearsal in the classroom, utilizing that face-to-face time to build the social-emotional skills, leadership, and cooperation we were talking about earlier. But remember, timing is everything. Implementing this balanced hybrid approach is absolutely most critical during early childhood. Why? Because that is exactly when the brain's plasticity is at its peak. If we can provide accessible, high-quality music education during these early years, leveraging both the global reach of technology and the physical benefits of traditional learning, we essentially maximize those lifelong cognitive gains, from executive function all the way to overall academic performance. So we return to this really profound realization. Music isn't just an extracurricular activity, it is a fundamental architectural tool for the growing brain. As technology continues to evolve, the line between traditional and digital is only going to continue to blur. So I want to leave you with this final question to ponder today. How will we orchestrate the next generation's learning? Will we successfully blend the wisdom of tradition with the innovation of technology to build better minds? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.